Hey guys, April Kamara here. Loki, I'm just trying to get my clothes out of my picture. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you guys today about my theory on empaths because I think a lot of people who are empaths develop this gift as like a way of survival, as a way of protection. And if I were to just get into the theory of it, right, like my theory of it is that people who are empaths, out of like a need for protection, right, like when you're really young, learned how to gauge someone's emotions probably from like a situation or like a place of like needing that information, needing that gift so that they felt like they could survive, so that they felt like they were safe. And so like my personal story is like I 100% believe that like I developed like my gift of being an empath just from like having a father that was just a little bit like emotional, like a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. When you guys hop on, say hi so I can say hello. But it wasn't like my dad wasn't a bad person or he wasn't abusive or anything like that. He just got like really, really angry. And like it would never be directed towards me, like ever. I mean, it was sometimes like when I got older, but never like in a bad way. It was just that like that was something that he struggled with. And because of it, like my childhood, I always felt like if I could just, know how he was feeling, if I could just make him feel better, then I would be safe. Then I wouldn't have to worry, like then he would be happy and I would be happy and we would all be happy, right? Because deep down, I just want everyone to be as happy as I was. And like it genuinely hurt me when other people weren't. I was just like, what? Why? Like, why are you upset about this? Like, this is such a little thing, Like when you're a child and your parents are upset about something like money, or they're upset about something like minuscule, like, when you're a child, these like material things, these unimportant things, you just look at them and you're like, why? Like, why do you make something like this so important? Like, why do you make something like where we live so important? Like, we're living, like, we're together, right? As a child, you understand that. But even as an adult now, like, I find myself stressing out about those things, right? And I just, like, as I grew up as an empath and, like, I genuinely believe that a lot of us, like, a lot of people, everyone 100% I believe is born with a spiritual gift. 100% everyone is, right? Like we have to have a connection with the spiritual. And I think the only people who may not have a connection with the spiritual are what people consider like sociopaths. And I don't really like have too much to say about that, but like it just came to me and I just said it. But we truly all have our connection to the spiritual. However, I think that our gifts develop, right? Like if you have a gift that's developed since you were a child, especially as an empath, I 100% believe that it was our choice to develop that gift stronger because we needed that protection. We needed to know how people were feeling because how people were feeling determined how we were treated. And deep down, empaths are super, super sensitive, not only to how other people feel, but also to how we are treated, right? Because empaths, like we have this heart of gold. Like we have this like genuine desire for everyone to be as happy as we are. We have this genuine desire for everyone to love us as much as we love them, right? And because of that, we tend to like overgive and totally forget about ourselves because we think that it's unfair for us to be so happy when everyone else is so miserable. Like, how can we be so happy if all these other people are so miserable? How? That's a genuine question we ask ourselves as empaths. Is like, how can I be so happy if everyone else is miserable? That's kept me from making money. That's kept me from, making friends, being myself around people, right? Because I always felt that if I wasn't in the throes with them, like if I wasn't like thinking like they were thinking, right, then I was just coming from a place of naivety. Like I was just naive and I wasn't, looking at things in the proper way, right? As empaths, we tend to like take on the energy of other people around us to protect us, to keep us feeling safe, and to also keep us like connected to others, because as empaths, like, we desire deep, deep connection. And with people who aren't as developed as an empath, their form of connection is like through bitterness and like judgment, right? Like, they feel bonded to people when they're sharing their pain. And like, as empaths, we see that pain and we want to like absorb it so that they don't have to feel it anymore, right? So that they don't feel it, because it's like, we think that we can hold on to their pain for them because we've been so happy. And when we do that, then they'll be happier. But as an empath, you realize that when you do this, you literally attract like people who are, what do you call it? Like, who are, it's not egotistical, but it's like the people who thrive off of that. Like, there's a certain personality type, I forget what it's called, but I think you guys know, narcissist, that's what it is. So like, when we do that, like, we attract hardcore narcissists into our life, and like, we'll be the people who like carry these narcissists like on our shoulder, like give everything that we have to this narcissistic person, and in turn we get wounded because we're giving all of this to you. Like, how can I, how can I take your emotions from you? How can I give you everything that I have? How can I tell you how amazing you are? And you still treat me like crap. And you still, you still get wounded and like mean to me. Like, how, as an empath, like, can you live with that? Like, that is like heartbreaking. So we have these like beautiful hearts of gold that get broken because what we're attracting to us is like, how do I describe it? We're attracting the suffering that we see everyone else dealing with because we think that it's unfair for us to be as loving and to be as pure and to be as whole as we are. So because everyone else, something is wrong with everyone else, right? Everyone else is focused on this problem. We call this problem into us so that we can relate to everyone else in a way that is like relatable to them. Because for an empath, the only way to relate to an empath is just to share yourself with us, right? Like, as an empath, you don't even have to speak to an empath and an empath knows how you're feeling. Like, you don't even have to like tell an empath what it is that you want and they like know, right? But like, our job as an empath as well is to like heal this idea that we have to relate to other people in suffering, heal this idea that, because what we learn from that is we learn that our hearts of gold are like truly against us, like, my heart of gold got me in trouble. My heart of gold got me hurt by this person. My heart of gold is what got me used and abused by this narcissistic person, or what got me made fun of as a kid, from all these other kids. So we hide it and like we barricade it and we put these huge walls up, like Mount Everest type walls, right? And like, we keep everyone at a distance, and that causes us to close off, right? That causes us not to just close off from other people, but from ourselves. Because we're saying that our heart of gold can't be trusted. Our heart of gold can't be used here. Our heart of gold is no good. And that in and of itself is like internal suicide for an empath, because we heal through our hearts. Like, we heal through our hearts. If you're an empath and you've never known like what to do with it or what your purpose is, it's because you heal people. You heal people with your hands, you heal people with your love, you heal people with your presence. We heal, right? But sometimes we use that. Sometimes we get distortions about what it is that we're doing when we're healing, or how impactful we actually are, because it's like we still have this idea on repeat that we need to like relate to people and their suffering. We still have this idea on repeat that like our heart of gold can't be trusted. We still have this idea on repeat that making our hearts known to other people is what gets us hurt. And that is like, it couldn't be further from true, but it's our truth, right? Because that's the distortion that we're believing. That's the story that we're repeating. That's the ever-going theme of our lives, right? So that's why when you meet empaths, they're like the best people that you know, but they can be some of the most wounded. They can be some of the most like holding on to grudges? Like, why do you think as empaths, like a lot of empaths that I know, like we're like the thicker body type people, you know, like we have curves, we have like, you know, like beautiful, like curvy bodies, right? But a part of that is because like we need protection. And I'm like saying this and I'm like, duh, April, that's why it's been hard for you to lose the weight, you know? But it's because like we feel like we need protection. We feel like we need protection from our desires because our desires are so pure that like, you know, what we say to other people doesn't even like to them seems like blasphemy or crazy because they can't understand it. Like because they don't have the capacity to love unconditionally like we do. You know, because they don't have the capacity to like grow and expand unconditionally like we do. And so like that as an empath is like our like constant, like it's our constant like peak of joy, right? Like loving ourselves, using our hearts the way we're meant to. But it's also our biggest pain because we have to let go of those stories that say I have to relate to someone else in suffering. We have to let go of those stories that say that our heart is only going to get us in trouble and our heart is only going to hurt us. We have to let go of those stories that we're never going to be good enough because we're just never going to understand why everyone here suffers and we're just always going to be alone and like, you know, we're always going to have to pretend like we're suffering so that people will accept us, right? Like as an empath when I was a child, I always remember feeling like everyone else was complaining and I had nothing to complain about. I lived in an effing trailer, you guys. Like I lived in a trailer with my mom who was divorced from my father, with a stepdad who had 2 beautiful stepdaughters, and I went from being the oldest to like the middle child, right? But I still felt like I had nothing to complain about. But because I would go to school every day and like a school that wasn't in a really good area, that was like pretty far from me, and for whatever reason I had to be shipped to this per se school, right? I remember thinking like, you know, oh my gosh, like everyone's complaining and like really upset right now, and all I have to say is that like I have nothing to complain about, and everyone just looks at me like I'm like being mean to them, you know? And so you may have like a similar story, you know, like you may remember whenever you felt like, you know, just truly yourself, right? But it wasn't that being yourself didn't feel good. It was that as empaths, we want to relate so badly to other people, right? It's like we desire connection so badly because we are the oddballs out sometimes, you know, like we're the people who can have like the smile on their faces no matter what just happened 5 minutes ago. You know, like we're the people who, you know, who truly know that happiness is our birthright and happiness is what we desire. But like literally, like from birth, it felt like we were just taught so different. So we've always had this inner conflict of like who we think we ought to be and like who the world thinks we ought to be versus who we know we are. And like our job is to realize that we have this gift for a reason, that we do heal people, but also to realize that when we step into our power, no one else can hurt us anymore. That is like a big key thing for empaths. When we step into our power, no one can hurt us. No one. And the reason why is because when you step into your power, you realize like how grand you are, how amazing you are, how much your heart is like literally a healing consciousness of yours. And then you step into that power and you no longer attract that, like those old paradigms, those old stories. You no longer attract the people who are suffering to come to you and like bleed off of you or like, you know, try to get all the energy from you that you can, because you're like, I know what my heart of gold is and I know what it deserves and I value it. So we set boundaries. That's why I always talk about setting boundaries, because I know that like empaths follow me, and most people who discover their gifts like started off with being empathic from that place of trauma, from that place of being wounded, from that place of needing to feel safe and needing to know how people were feeling before they said anything so that we didn't get hurt, right? And so then it goes into like, that was a place of powerlessness that we lived in. But when we get older and we start to realize that this truly is a gift, that this truly is protection for us, that this truly is like our way of like really creating the life that we deserve, right? And really attracting to people who have similar hearts that we do. So when we step into that power and we see that vulnerability, but we also see that like we value ourselves, we value this heart that we have, we value this heart of gold, and we're not letting anyone get in our way to stop us, right? We're not letting anyone take this away from us. We set proper boundaries that keep those people who would literally just use and abuse us out, right? Like, we set those boundaries and we no longer feel sad for those people. We no longer buy into their stories. We're not even like a vibrational match for those people, right? Because we are no longer wounded, because we let our heart heal us. Because not only do we let our heart heal us, but we start to have compassion for those people, but not the kind of compassion that's like, you know, push me over and take whatever you want from me. I feel sorry for you. The compassion that says like, wow, that person, and like, that is a truly good person, but they're just really suffering right now. I need to give them space so that they can see that, you know, so that they can deal with whatever personal shadow work that they have to, and that when they come back to me, they'll be so much better, you know, and they're only going to bring to me what I bring to the table. That's huge for empaths. So hopefully you guys loved my story about empaths, like, because I think that that is something like I speak from the heart from, and I speak from like a different place than most people. But also too, if you're an empath and you're struggling with like understanding that, like, let me know. Like, we can set up a reading, we can set up like something like a coaching package, whatever it is that you need, so that you can truly step into that greatness that you have, and so that like you're in that place of power. You know, that place of power, it seems scary and it seems grandiose, right? And like, we're taught, especially as women, not to see ourselves as better than others, not to see ourselves as like superior or anything like that. But the truth is that that place of power is where we were always meant to be. That place of power takes us back to when we were children, you know, and we were just in our own bubbles, in our own world, living in our best lives, you know, like, that's what we were doing, and that's what we deserve, right? But it takes like stepping to that power. And so you may feel like, April, I'm like 10 years away from that. Or, April, I'm like so far away from that. I don't even know what the place of power even means in my life. Like, I would just tell you that it's okay. It's 100% okay, because the truth of the matter is we all have our own paths. But you'd be so surprised what just like setting an intention will do for you. You'd be so surprised what just like asking for it and focusing on what's already good in your life would do for you. You would be surprised. So I'm going to let you guys go with that. Your hearts of golds are always welcome here. Share them, love them, do whatever you need to with them. But just know, like, if you want to work together, and that's something that you want to work on, is like stepping into that place of power. You want to work on stepping into that place where you actually are healing people with your heart, where you actually are setting the boundaries that keep you where you need to be, that keep you protected from those things that aren't serving you anymore. Like, let's talk. Let's see what we can work out, and we'll get started wherever you need to. So with that, I'll let you guys go. Bye.